With me now, the man who needs no introduction, the founder of Locals, Dave Rubin. Dave, good to see you.
Liz, it's nice to see you. You know, people keep telling me that I don't need an introduction, which is an odd place to be at career-wise. He needs no introduction, which I always sort of think is like, maybe they can't think of anything good about me. Is that possible? He needs no introduction. He's so terrible.
You know, nice it's really just my trick of when I can't remember someone's resume when I'm introducing them, that's what I say. A man who needs no introduction because I've forgotten my introduction.
Liz, I am the why I left the left guy. I mean, come on.
That's right.
That's all you need to know.
Right.
He left the left, holy cow.
And we've been having such a good time at NatCon because we've run into each other, what, like 12 times now?
About 87 times.
After about the last 10 years of not running into each other at every conference.
We had never met before yesterday in person.
Which still blows my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Blows my mind. So I want to continue the conversation that we were having off the air. The weight of the world is on our shoulders right now, and I think we need to discuss why on earth you would eat a fish sandwich for lunch when there's all the other options to eat.
I didn't know which conversation you were going for. Well, I'm crossing my leg. Your guys wanted your leg crossed that way. Now I cross my leg.
You got to fill up the space in the chair. This is stagecraft where it's like they give you something and you take ownership of it.
We're in a big chair.
That's right. Look at my arms.
I enjoy the fish sandwich. I've always enjoyed a good fish sandwich. I like tartar sauce, and we are here in Florida, and I felt if I'm going to have a sandwich, let it be a fish sandwich.
What kind of fish?
I believe it was mahi-mahi.
I was trying to trap you. I didn't think that you would know the answer.
It was mahi-mahi, which people don't know this. Mahi-mahi actually is a type of dolphin, which is upsetting to some people, but it's not like Flipper the dolphin. It's just some other sort of dolphin offshoot.
Like a sister to Flipper?
Like a distant cousin. So I don't think it's like, you know, the dolphin that's like jumping out with the rainbows and the blowholes.
Let's just say you are lucky that I'm a vegan for non-ideological reasons, for health reasons, because otherwise you would have just told me that you ate a pet for lunch.
I cannot believe you're a vegan.
I'm like the crunchiest person that you've ever met on the conservative side.
You're a conservative vegan, which makes no sense whatsoever. And yet you also are healthy. Obviously,
because
like
I'm a vegan.
Look good, but no.
Thank you.
Listen, I used to live on the Upper West Side. I would go to Fairway in New York City where they had like the upstairs vegan area.
Sure.
You want to see a bunch of people that look like they're extras in Walking Dead.
They get like out of breath going up the stairs, right?
They're all weak. Their skin, you can see through it. Their head, they're dribble. This I would ascribe to living in New York, not to be That's
vegan.
just general New York City.
Yeah. Gross generalization of everyone that lives in New York. New York is unhappy and unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we've established that, let's talk about our air travel for this week, if we're airing all of our grievances.
Yes.
So I was just talking to Yoram, who's the organizer of this conference, and he was saying that up to 15 speakers have been delayed or had their flights canceled. This, just for everyone's edification, is an enormous number of speakers to have their flights disrupted, since we're coming from not only all corners of the United States, but from all over the world to this conference.
Literally Marco Rubio coming from Miami. We're in Orlando. Technically he could have driven. It's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive, I think. But Marco Rubio, he got his flight canceled, so he's not going to speak. He obviously was one of the big people here. But it is an incredible thing that every few weeks, somehow, flights for only one specific airline are canceled. So a few weeks ago, it was Southwest was the only one affected by the storms. Apparently today, it's only American Airlines being affected by the heavy winds. I'm not a scientician, and I know we must trust the scientists, but like, what's going on here? Well, it's almost as if something else might be happening that the media maybe wouldn't be telling us, but I don't want to come off like Alex Jones over here.
This is how I imagine it. So you know the claymation Christmas movies?
Yeah.
You know The Year Without a Santa Claus with the heat miser and the snow miser?
Old school.
Every year at Christmas I watch these, my family watches these, and I always picture in these weather events that are so specific to one airline, these little heat miser and snow miser up in the clouds being like, today we will get Southwest.
And then you see the
lightning bolt right on the airplane. Yeah, so of course that is real life. That's
naturally that's what's happening here.
There was a pilot on Southwest who I wish I had been on this flight.
Yeah.
I absolutely wish this would have been my favorite air travel experience. Said over the intercom during the flight, "Let's go, Brandon." I mean, we can all agree that that's just funny, right?
First off, it's funny. Secondly, apparently there's some question as to whether he said, "Let's go Braves." That's what some people are now saying, that maybe he said that. Either way.
I hope he said, "Let's go Brandon."
No, I hope he did too. But the same people that for 4 years were telling us that literally Hitler was president and that half the country's Nazis and most of us should be in jail or otherwise sent to camps or they're going to have us on lists. Now they're upset because one pilot said, "Let's go, Brandon." And by the way, I have a friend, Brandon, who's been a little depressed lately. And I have been asking people online to just say, "Let's go, Brandon." and I send him all the messages. So
did you see the meme?
I did it today. It got like 15,000 likes on Twitter.
Amazing.
Just to help, because I want Brandon. I want people to know, let's go, Brandon. Like, get up, get out there.
We need the encouragement. It's a positive message. Did you see that meme of Jill Biden? This is of course satire, just for the Facebook fact checkers when they're looking at this. After we released this exclusively on Locals, of course, there was a meme of Jill Biden that said, "Now he thinks his name is Brandon. Will you guys stop?"
That's funny. I mean, did you see today? They're doing this big climate summit, and he fell asleep in the middle of the conference.
Well,
which, no, of course, it doesn't surprise anybody and whatever, and people can be tired, and I think there was one event that Trump kind of fell asleep. Like, of course those things can happen, but the fact that it's just so obvious with him, whatever is happening, we don't even have to name it specifically, but it's just obvious that something ain't right. And
it's the totality of evidence here. It's not an isolated incident where he nodded off because climate change is boring.
Do you remember when Donald Trump dared to drink a glass of water with 2
and protect
hands,
his tie?
And they pretended he had a neurological disorder? Or when he slowly walked down a ramp while it was in the rain and anyone could have fallen?
Yes.
And they said, we should, this is 25th Amendment stuff. Now we have a president who barely can speak a clean sentence. I mean, that's just the truth. Who's falling asleep, who there's a rumor that while he was in Rome with the Pope, he might have pooped in his pants. I mean, there's a lot going on here.
Funniest thing ever. I talked about that on my show because that's really a good way. The hashtag Poopgate is really a good way to, I guess it's really revenge, right? It's obviously a conspiracy theory. It's false. It's hilarious. There's no evidence of that. But it's a hilarious way to get back at them for canceling the live stream of it. The media, they closed it to the media. Right. So they're like, well, we're going to start a crude rumor about you if you don't open it to the media. That's so funny.
Naturally, the president pooped in his pants. But the fact that this is all happening right in front of our eyes and that everyone knows it's all nonsense and he's not in charge and all of these things. And yet, for people like us that have to talk about the news, like we have to address the things that he says. It is what it is.
I was actually one of the last ones on this bandwagon of talking about his fragile mental state because during the campaign even, I was like, listen, he's radical. He's surrounding himself with actual, literal Marxists. Why don't we talk about that? Because nobody wants Marxists, even the left. Why don't we keep it away from the person and on the ideas? And of course, this was naive of me, I suppose, because even I'm convinced now that something is not right there. As much as this is a great conversation on this topic, I want to do a hard transition though, because the Virginia race, speaking of radicals.
Look at you flipping on a dime like a pro. Incredible.
I know, well,
incredible.
we have to get to this because everyone cares about this. It's very important. It's happening now. First of all, this is the worst question that a pundit can be asked. And so I say this in full knowledge of how mean it is for me to ask you for a prediction. Who's going to win this? Yeah,
so I will say that I did a few of these when I was on the other side of the interview this morning doing my thing downstairs. I did a few of these myself, so this is karma coming to get me. I do believe Youngkin will win. I think something happened in the last 2 weeks that really did wake up parents. Well, not something, we know what happened. They went so all in on, your children are basically the property of the state and you as parents shouldn't be having any involvement in what goes on in classrooms. Like McAuliffe pushed it so hard, then this ridiculous, truly evil stunt that Lincoln Project pulled, pretending that there were white supremacists at a Youngkin rally. Like all of this stuff I think has woken up enough people. And I think the kids stuff is the specific thing. You were talking to me about this morning on my show. Like when you push people to the point of now we're going after your kids, we're going to inject your kids, we don't know if it works, we're going to teach them that they're racist or guilty or whatever. It's like now I think you've done something else. You've woken up a certain select group of people that maybe wouldn't have been woken up otherwise. All that being said, I don't think it's 100% for sure. I think the whole system is screwy. I think there's so little trust in the system, which is a problem. And I don't put anything past these people. But the fact that we even have to care about a gubernatorial race in Virginia tells you everything you need to know about how screwy the system is right now, right? Like, I live in Cali, you live in Maine. We should not care. It should be completely irrelevant to us. You know what I mean? A Senate race, maybe you could say, okay, there's some value in you caring about it in California or whatever. The fact that we care about this because it's so important culturally, tells you that something is not right now. So,
well, everyone thinks it's a bellwether.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, unfortunately, gubernatorial races halfway across the country now matter to the average person, which is, I don't think it's good for the long-term health of the country. But I do think if Youngkin wins, it does send a message across the system like, oh, you guys can get some wins again. You know what I mean? Like there is pushback against this cultural nonsense, the Marxist stuff, all of it. So it's big. It really is big.
I'm interested actually in how the leftists are going to react if and when Youngkin wins. If they're going to do what Joe Biden did during his campaign and pretend to be a moderate, or if they're going to just double down on what they've been ever since Joe Biden took office and just openly and blatantly and aggressively and sometimes maliciously admit that they are as radically left as they are.
They will double down. I hate to tell you. I am willing to make that prediction. Yeah.
I think they will too. But if in the face of this outright leftism, this outright Marxism, conservatives can win, which I'm crossing my fingers, I have more hope. Let's say this. I don't like to make predictions because if I had a crystal ball, I'd be a lot richer than I am right now. Let's just say that. So, I mean, who am I to say what's going to happen in Virginia? I will say I have more hope than I had for the California recall. I was obviously hoping that Newsom would be recalled, that Larry Elder would win in the face of a recall and become governor. I thought it was a long shot. I thought it was one of those victory without victory that everyone hates, just having the recall election take place. But in Virginia, I feel like it's much closer. And that's not just based on the polls, because I'm a poll skeptic, let's just say.
Yeah. Well, you should be a poll skeptic because polls are wrong pretty much half the time, if not more. Yeah. So you should be. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but I normally wouldn't say we when it comes to like a political, when it comes to an election or a specific candidate. And it's not like I have some great like affection for Youngkin. He seems like a decent guy. I don't know a ton about him. Like, it's not like before 2 months ago, I really even knew who he was at all.
No,
but the point is these things now matter. So like and I will say we need a political win right now. We're getting some cultural wins. We're waking people up, but the system needs to be shocked. That's also why I was so obsessed really with the California recall. It wasn't just because I live there, at least for now. It was also because it was just like, the system needs to be shown again what happened in 2016, which is the unthinkable can happen. The underdog can win. The cultural elite and the political machine and big media and big tech, they don't always win. So this is an opportunity to get one of those.
And I actually, going back to 2016, I actually reject the idea of the silent majority. In fact, if there is a silent majority, shame on the people being silent. Yeah. I actually think that it's a victory over that middle ground, people who voted for Barack Obama and then voted for Trump. They don't consider themselves affiliated with a party, a particular party or not. They look at the policies and how the policies impact their personal lives and make decisions based on that. And that's what we should see in these, I call them referendum elections, whether it's in Virginia or whether it's the congressional elections of next year. We should see these referendums on how the Biden administration's radical policies have hurt people, and that convinces those middle ground people, the back and forth people, to come back towards, or I guess if I'm being accurate with my hands here, to come back towards the right and reject the radical leftist policies.
Do you think that the average person is going, the person who say was just like the moderate or didn't care or was an independent or something like that, that was like, Biden's not that bad. Do you think now, like 10 months later, where everything is so screwy between inflation and supply chains and all the stuff that we all know about, do you think that that person is actually being like, I think I've had just about enough of this, and then you have to do the next step. You can't just say it, then you have to vote for the other side.
Well, you don't have to vote for the other
side.
You don't
have to,
sometimes a vote of admission is the same thing. Yeah, I don't just think that. It's not just my opinion or my observation. I know that. I mean, you can look at the polls and look at how Biden is underwater in his approval ratings. I mean, people don't like what he's doing. It's impacting their everyday lives. I know we talk about, and we've talked since before I was born, conservatives have talked about kitchen table economics, but these are the people who've had their businesses shut down for, 20 months?
Listen, you can complain about that.
It's a high-class problem, Dave.
The important thing is that we have a trans health secretary, 4-star, whatever the hell she is. We've got her. So yes, you can't afford food, but it's like priorities, Liz. Come on.
Right. Well, yes. Look at how much diapers cost. Look at how much meat costs. Look at how much eggs cost.
No. You're thinking too much about yourself. You have to think about the.
That's right, because I don't buy meat. Right.
You have to think about the greater good, which is that Rachel Levine is the first, as the New York Times said, female.
Female who's not a female.
Female. It's not just that they lie. It's not just that they lie about everything and that this is just exposed feminism to be the most ridiculous ideology known to man. No pun intended. But that the New York Times is putting the word female in. It's like, it's okay. If you want to say she is the first, if you want to even use her pronoun and say she is the first transgender woman, 4-star, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay. But for the New York Times to say the first female, it's an affront to the English language because female means you have ovaries and, I just met your beautiful little daughter. Like that has something to do with you being female, right? Yes. That's reality.
I think so. I was there when she gave birth and it seemed to be happening to my body, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it had something to do with you. So it's an affront to language, it's an affront to science, it's an affront to truth. And yet they do it New York Times does it, and it wasn't even just the New York Times. Do you see the Surgeon General?
Yeah.
So it's like if the Surgeon General of the United States, if I know more about science than that guy, we have a big problem.
These are the people, by the way, telling us that we have to get the vaccine, that they've admitted for our children that they don't know it'll be safe until we inject them.
I got 10 booster shots this morning because I've been shaking hands.
Then you're still not fully vaccinated, probably, according to the CDC.
Well, I'd have to,
Exactly. I mean, you're on a timer. You got like just a little bit of time left. Okay, so everyone on... I don't have a watch either. We both pointed to our wrists. What frauds, what absolute frauds. Okay, so
that's an old Chevy Chase thing from way back when.
Yes, I actually knew that. Yeah, look at me. It's like one movie that I watched, right? Okay, so this is on Locals First. Anybody who's seeing it on YouTube, if you want to see exclusive access to this, you can join our Locals communities, LizWheelerShow.com/locals, and of course, I believe it's RubinReport.locals.com.
It is.
Oh, look at me remembering that from your pitch on your show.
Incredible.
It's wonderful to talk to you. I've been having a great time with you. Thank you for talking to me.
We will do this again in real life soon enough, but sadly, we'll mostly do it in boxes until then. But
that's okay too. I enjoy that.
It's all right too.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.